So, have you ever stopped to think about what's really holding our green future together? I mean, it's not just the solar panels and wind turbines we see, right? Behind all of that, there's this invisible architecture, a kind of global blueprint that's guiding every single sustainable step we take. And today, we're going to pull back that curtain and take a look at this unseen world of environmental standards. Our story is going to start right here, in the Caribbean, looking at this amazing green architecture. But, these buildings are so much more than just pretty designs. They are a statement of survival, really, a testament to some serious innovation, and a blueprint for a much more resilient world. And look, the need for this new way of thinking is, well, it's incredibly urgent. We're not just putting up resorts anymore, we are building defenses for a brand new and much tougher climate.
So that gets us to the big question, doesn't it? How do we actually build our world to handle these stronger storms, the rising seas, and all the other crazy pressures of a planet that is changing fast?
For the small island nations in the Caribbean, this is anything but abstract. They are right there on the front lines. They're facing down monster hurricanes, dealing with some of the highest energy costs on the entire planet, and trying to manage growing water shortages. I mean, the stakes just could not be higher.
But you know what they say, with huge challenges comes some truly incredible ideas. So, let's open up the playbook they're using to fight back.
Okay, so it all comes under this big banner of green construction. But this is not just about, sticking a few plants on a roof. At its heart, it is a complete rethinking of how a building lives its life, from the very first drawing to the day it comes down, all to be smarter, way more efficient, and just gentler on the planet.
And you can see what that really looks like in practice. For materials, we're talking about using local stuff like bamboo. They even call it green steel or volcanic ash. For water, it means setting up rainwater harvesting systems to save every drop. Then you've got energy efficiency, right? Designing buildings that cool themselves with cross-ventilation. And of course, the big one, resilient design, using reinforced structures that can actually stand up to Mother Nature when she's really angry.
Now, here's where it gets really interesting. These solutions, they aren't just being made up on the spot. Nope, they are all part of a much bigger global system.
There's this global rule book in play, a whole set of standards that make sure a hurricane-resistant window in Dominica is built to the exact same quality and safety level as one made anywhere else on Earth. This is where that unseen blueprint really starts to come into focus.
And you can think of this rulebook as having two main authors, and they work together perfectly. On one side, you've got ISO, the International Organization for Standardization. They give you the big picture framework, the management system, basically the what to do. And on the other side, you've got ASTM International. They give you all the super detailed technical specs, the how to do it.
All right, let's dig into that first pillar, ISO 14001. Honestly, the best way to think about it is like an operating system, the Green OS, that runs a company's entire environmental program.
At the very core of ISO 14001 is this idea of an environmental management system, or EMS. It's just a structured way for a company to take a hard look at everything it does, figure out its environmental footprint, and then make a solid plan to get better and better and better.
And the logic behind it is actually pretty simple, but it's so powerful, it asks companies to identify their environmental aspects. That's any activity they do, like, say, photocopying, and then connect that to their environmental impacts, which is the result, like using up resources. Once you see that chain of cause and effect, well, then you can actually start to manage it.
And it's not a one-and-done thing. It works in this continuous loop. So a company sets its big policy, it plans what to do, it does it, and then it checks how it's going and fixes things that aren't working. Then the bosses review everything to find new ways to improve. It's this constant cycle of getting better.
And the standard itself keeps getting better too. The newest version from 2015 is way tougher than the old one. It puts a huge focus on leadership, it brings in risk-based thinking, and it forces companies to look at the entire life of their products, not just what happens inside their own factory. Okay, so if ISO gives us the operating system, who writes the actual code? Well, that's where ASTM comes in. These are the folks who write the incredibly detailed blueprints. Yeah, this quote just nails it. ASTM standards are the technical and safety blueprints, and they are very specific. They don't just say, hey, make that window strong. No, they give you the exact step-by-step procedure for how to test that window to prove it can take a hit from hurricane-force winds. And they've got a whole group dedicated to this, Committee E60 on Sustainability. Since 2008, its members, all 700 of them, have been hammering out standards for everything from green buildings to sustainable manufacturing and even healthcare.
And the scope of what they cover is it's incredible. There are committees for cement, for plastics, waste management, the performance of an entire building, solar energy, you name it, they've got a standard for it. Each one is creating these super detailed rules to make sure every little piece performs safely and sustainably.
So, wow, we've gone from a single green building in the Caribbean all the way into these global committees. Let's tie it all back together and see why this actually matters so much. So here it is, the big takeaway. These standards are not just some boring documents sitting on a shelf collecting dust. They are the living, breathing foundation that allows real-world projects to go from just being a nice idea to a tough, resilient reality.
And you can see the results for real. In Barbados, this national push for solar water heaters, guided by these very principles, led to over 50,000 of them being installed. That's a huge energy saving. And after Hurricane Maria, Dominica used these resilient building standards to build over 450 new homes that could withstand the next storm. This is a real, life-saving impact.
And the momentum is just growing. As the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency points out, companies that adopt these systems are seeing major benefits. Everything from saving money to, of course, better environmental performance. It's a system that just plain works.
So the next time you see a green building, or maybe you use a product made from recycled stuff, just remember that vast, invisible blueprint that made it all possible. Which kind of leaves us with one last question to chew on. What other unseen standards are shaping your world?